In this week's lesson on grace, Pastor Jim starts off with a powerful story from the Bible. It's about a woman caught in adultery, and she's sentenced to death by stoning. It's recorded in the biographical account of John in the 8th chapter. I'm just going to read 2 lines from that story, which occur right after a group of religious teachers essentially kind of like drag this woman in front of Jesus. And this is what happens next in verse 4. They say, "Teacher, this woman was caught in the act of adultery. In the law, Moses commanded us to stone such women. Now, what do you say?" Let me ask you to consider something. So much of the wrong that we do is done in secret. We close the door behind us, cuff our hand over their phone, we withdraw to a place where no one else is around. And when we do that, we give ourselves, kind of like a false sense of security. We think, as long as no one sees what I'm doing or hears what I'm doing, it's okay. I remember a time like this when I was a kid. I had closed myself in my closet with a pair of scissors, and in the dark, I decided, I'm gonna cut my hair. And just a few moments after I cut like this huge chunk out of my hair, the doors opened. Light came pouring into the darkness as my mom stared down at me. And all at once, I just felt so utterly exposed. That's an example from childhood, but trust me, I've had many experiences like that as an adult too. Maybe not in the closet with scissors, but worse, caught in lies, discovered in sin, more times than I can count, really. But that feeling of being exposed, it's terrible. All of a sudden you realize that you have nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, and no excuses to make. And in that moment, it becomes clear that maybe you're not as good as you like to believe that you are. Can you relate? With that feeling in mind, I want us to consider Jesus' response to the woman. Because when we're exposed in our wrongdoing, God is often the last person we want to face. Remember when Adam and Eve ate the fruit they knew they weren't supposed to eat? They hid from God. And we do the same. But surprisingly, Jesus says these words. He says, "I do not condemn you." As we continue this series on grace, I want us to remember those words. Because truly, God is not out to condemn us. He's not out to punish us. He's not disgusted by us or embarrassed by us. When we are confronted by our sin, when all others have turned their backs on us, Jesus is still there. He's still looking us straight in the eyes and saying, "I do not condemn you." Take a few moments to just let that soak in. That while God is just, He is also incredibly gracious.